Hey there, friends. We got a really weird one to talk about here today. Before we get into that, guys, check to make sure you're still subscribed to my channel. As usual, YouTube is playing their games, and they're removing subscribers at a pretty high rate. The amount of views and the amount of view time is actually rising, but my subscribers are going down. It's possible, but it's not likely. First, go check out my friends On Duty CBD. These guys provide legit CBD, not this Chinese stuff that's going to find you in a wooden box somewhere packed with who knows what from China. This stuff's made in Kentucky. More specifically, the University of Kentucky extracts this CBD oil and packages it for On Duty USA. Check them out, On Duty USA. Use my discount code FTATF. Again, use my discount code FTATF for 20% off of your orders at On Duty USA. Check them out, ondutyusa.com. A suspected serial killer believed to be responsible for slaughtering 3 homeless people on the streets of LA was identified Saturday after investigators realized he was already in custody for a separate but 4th murder. Convicted felon Jared Joseph Powell, 33 years of age, allegedly shot the 3 vulnerable homeless men as they slept, as well as a 4th man who was not homeless, in a botched burglary during a violent 4-day killing spree. Powell was arrested Wednesday for the burglary gone wrong, and on Saturday, investigators connected him to the murders of the homeless individuals. Now, he was originally arrested for that 4th murder that they just described here. He followed, this might be a lesson to you electronic vehicle owners. He followed a Tesla owner home from a charging station. Now, the assumption likely was that this guy can afford a Tesla, probably has nice things, so followed him home. When he drove up to his house, he assaulted the guy, actually shot him, took a few things, and then took off. This guy, look, this doesn't make sense. This guy, the attacker, the killer in this case, drove a 2024 BMW. Now, I'm not saying that's the car of all cars. Not saying that at all. It could be a 2024, I don't know, Dodge. It could be a 2024 freaking Yugo. I don't know. He's driving a brand new vehicle. And again, a BMW is not the cheapest vehicle on the road. Why is he robbing people? He either paid cash for this vehicle, which means he had money, or he got a loan for this vehicle, which means he's got something, right? I would imagine the requirements for a loan on a 2024 BMW are probably not the same as most other vehicles out there, some of the lower end cars out there. So the guy has to have at least have some kind of established credit or something like that. Now, further history on this guy, which by the way, is really hard to find, the history on this killer. But a little bit more history on him. He's a longtime felon. The guy's a longtime felon, driving a 2024 BMW, which, according to all reports, is his. But this guy had killed 3 different homeless people at 3 different locations, all within a week's time. Actually, within 3 days' time, he killed 3 people. This man would walk up to these homeless people while they slept and just shoot them. In my opinion, and this is just my opinion, again, I wrote a book called How to Make a Monster on the Mind of Killers. This is a psychopath, not a sociopath. What I mean by that is, and I described that briefly in my book, a psychopath is born. Now, there's a lot of debate about this in the psychiatry and psychology world, but a psychopath is commonly known to be born that way. Their environment, no matter how good or bad, does not shape that person. Where a sociopath, their environment shapes that person. Yeah, they may have a screw loose and a little bit different, but they're not born as a, quote, killer. Different elements in their environment lead to that. Broken homes, being overly medicated, being bullied, harassed, things like that. And you just kind of make this person, that's where you hear the person, he just snapped. That's where you usually hear that. Because their environment is what is creating that different mindset that makes them want to go take somebody else's human life. This guy seems like a true born psychopath. What did he have to gain? Again, he was already a felon, already done some things, and it's hard to find stuff on this guy, by the way. But this guy was known to police because he was a longtime felon. What did he have to gain by murdering 3 homeless people at 3 different locations while they slept, whom he didn't know? That's really, really, really odd. Again, I can't enter into the mind of a psychopath because I'm not one. At least I don't think that I am. But when they say they're not clear what the motive is, well, neither am I. And it almost complicates things a little bit more, but if the guy's a known felon, I guess I understand him following the Tesla driver home and murdering him and robbing him. Sounds like the robbing part is the part that I guess I kind of understand, because if he's already a felon and a criminal, he may have been robbing this guy. But unless this guy the killer had some really bad information on homeless people aren't known to have a lot of money. They're not known to have a lot of drugs. They're not known to have a lot of things. So clearly he was not robbing the homeless people. He was just indiscriminately shooting strangers who he didn't know while they slept. That's up here, guys. There's something wrong. He had nothing at all to gain and accomplish by killing these people. Now, this guy, again, being a known felon, was probably let out on the street by Gaston, that DA that lets everybody out on the street. In fact, he even posted bail for this guy, a figure for bail. But the DA is likely, in many cases, would have let this guy out, and probably has let him out many times in the past. That's how we got here, so to speak. It might be a little bit different here. You know, in California, they kind of treat their homeless people like celebrities. They give them the key to the shit. That is a Freudian slip. I was trying to say they give them a key to the city, not shh. So, but that's how California treats their homeless. They give them a key to the city in California. So they're probably going to take offense to this. This is like a protected class of people for them. This is obviously, it's a very vastly growing, fast-growing population in the state of California. And look, I want to say this on a side note real quick. I don't want you to think that I'm making fun of homeless people. Some people, are down on their luck and are in a position that they probably couldn't help. And I say some. That's a teeny tiny bit of them. You've got people who have mental conditions who wind up on the street. That's sad and that's unfortunate, and that is a failure of our system is what that is. Guys, most of the rest of them, choices. They made choices to get there. Again, if they're not mentally incapacitated, they got there through a series of choices. It's really hard for me to feel sorry for people who made a whole bunch of bad choices to get somewhere in life and then sit there and whine, poor me. Now, do I celebrate them and am I glad they're homeless? Of course not. I don't wish anything like that. The only people I wish really, really bad stuff on is rapists and child molesters and child attackers. That's the only people I wish bad stuff on. I don't want to see any of my fellow brothers suffering out there. So even though these people made a whole bunch of bad choices, I don't like to see them homeless, but you do see some homeless people who find their way and start making the right choices and get out of that. But this is very unfortunate the way this all went down. And again, I don't like to see anybody obviously lose their lives, especially an unsuspecting person who's sleeping. What did they do to deserve that? But nevertheless, state of California is probably going to go after this guy pretty hard. Now, speaking of going after this guy, I had to go through several now, links before I could find any information on this guy. Now, this was after they had already captured this guy. You couldn't find much information. Occasionally, you would get his name thrown out there, but not much of a description on him, which started to make me wonder why. I had to scroll all the way down to a New York Post story and link before I actually found this is the guy that we're talking about, and this is the killer. Answered a whole lot of questions as to why the media is protecting this guy. So this may be a story that goes away kind of fast, even though it is of the favored sons of California, the homeless people. They are the victims. They also have a protected person that they are not going to want to link to this, because this is a sick and brutal spree of killings by this person. Here's some of the news reports that I saw on this particular story.
Jared Powell is the suspect in the disturbing murders of 3 homeless men across LA this week. At least one brutal killing caught on security video. Police Chief Michael Moore describing how the homeless man was attacked while sleeping.
It was chilling, and I've been in this work for 4+ decades. The cold-blooded manner in which he walks up and shoots this individual without any hesitation, no interactions, and then leave that location.
Police detectives say evidence at all three scenes now links the 33-year-old convicted felon to a fourth murder under investigation by the Sheriff's Department. Sheriff Luna says on Tuesday evening, the suspect driving this 2024 gray BMW sedan followed Nicholas Cimbolin to his home in San Dimas, then robbed and shot the 42-year-old husband and father of two to death. Investigators say 2 days later, after that murder and three others, the suspect and his getaway car were later tracked down in Beverly Hills by one of those controversial automatic license plate scanners. Beverly Hills police pulling the suspect over, taking him into custody.
If we did not enter that plate into the system, this individual that we believe is responsible for at least 4 murders may have been out there and reoffended.
LAPD says evidence shows the suspect's car was near the locations where each homeless man was murdered. And investigators say the gun found in the suspect's vehicle also matches evidence at each crime scene.
Now, as you can see, this is actually what they put out after the Tesla driver was burglarized and murdered. In other words, they had not linked Powell here with the homeless killings yet, although the homeless killings, by the time this went out, they were probably taking place. If you look at this as saying that he killed this man on November 28th, and I believe it was around the 28th and 29th when he actually killed the homeless people. So they were looking for this guy while he was killing homeless people. So this that you see homicide investigation notification right here had nothing to do with the homeless people being murdered at this point in time. This was strictly for the Tesla murder and burglary. So we're talking about California here. We're talking about an area that has extremely strict gun laws. This guy clearly did not have a at least legitimate concealed carry permit because he was a felon. In the state of California, it's hard enough to get one. You're definitely not getting one if you're a felon, even though in many cases, a felon is somewhat of a protected person in the state of California. They're still not giving them CCWs. They hate gun owners more than they like felons. So they were not going to give this guy a CCW. So this guy was concealed carrying or open carrying, both illegal in his case. This guy shot one person, killed him. I guess both of those are against the law, shooting somebody and murdering them. Then shot a second person and murdered them. Then a third, then a fourth. They literally have laws to prevent this in California. Do you understand what I'm saying? They have already written laws that outlaw everything this guy did. This guy did it anyway. Did the gun make him do that? You notice how they're not making a big deal about the gun? It was a handgun. If it was an AR-15, you'd know it. And again, this is all part of them burying this story because of who this guy is. But the guy had a handgun. No word about the handgun, no pictures about the handgun. Everything he did, there's a law in place in California that says you can't do that. And he did it anyway. Everything about this story is what the wackos on the far left and the media don't want you talking about. Because it shows how ineffective their stupid little laws are. They don't work. Choices are made, just like people make choices and end up becoming homeless. People make choices and end up becoming criminals. This guy made choices. You know what some of his choices were? Disobey and ignore the existing gun laws in the state of California. That's what he chose to do. But somebody on the other side has got to at some point go, we really are barking up the wrong tree because we sound stupid when we say that passing another law to add to the list of all the ones that this guy already ignored, that's supposed to stop things? That sounds kind of stupid. At some point, they have got to look at themselves and go, he disobeyed all these. How is one more going to make a difference? I've said this before. Unless you can get a genie in a bottle, rub it, and they magically make every single gun disappear, the ability to build any additional guns going forward, unless you can do that, you cannot stop murders with a firearm. Now, you'll never stop murders, even if you got that genie in a bottle and made every single gun and the ability to make any others disappear. You won't stop murders. The mind is still going to want to kill. The same people that hate are going to be the same people that hate going forward. That evil doesn't go away because you made a tool go away. This really is common sense. One final thing that I want to talk about, and this is really, really weird. And I'm not trying to draw a line to link these things or anything. I want you guys to know this and how odd this is. Look at this news report. I want you to watch this other news report. Now remember, we just talked about a guy who killed 3 homeless people and one other person who was not homeless, right? So let's focus on the 3 homeless people. That was in Los Angeles. 100 or so miles away, a couple of 100 miles away in Las Vegas during this same time. Now, this wasn't this same guy because this guy was already captured, I believe, when all of this took place. I believe he was captured on December 1st. And it looks like that's around the time when these murders were taking place. Watch this.
Officers arriving on scene found 5 male victims shot at the encampment. All 5 people were homeless and transported to the hospital. Police said one of the victims, a man in his 50s, was pronounced dead upon arrival. Of the 4 remaining victims, 3 are in stable condition and 1 remains in critical. At this time, Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department are not sure what led to the shooting, but say the shooter remains outstanding.
So from a time standpoint, I can almost guarantee these 2 are not linked to this same killer. This killer is still at large in Las Vegas, within days of each other, and possibly even at the exact same time. 2 different locations, shooting at, killing in some cases, homeless people. What in the heck? What a wild coincidence, if this is a coincidence, right? You know I don't believe in coincidence that much. This is strange. I can't figure out if this is one of the craziest, wildest coincidences ever, but this is really, really strange. And again, I'm not implying anything because nothing ties them together other than the commonality of what happened. But let's remember the other guy is still on the loose who shot the 4 people in Las Vegas. I want you to tell me in the comment section down below why you think, and I'm just curious because I really do get some good feedback in the comment section down below. And I want you guys, if you don't normally read the comment section, go read it. People are usually pretty good at disclosing some information. Obviously, there's some craziness that takes place in the comment section, obviously. But nevertheless, it can be a very interesting and enlightening to read it. So tell me, guys, those of you watching this video, why did the media fight so hard to protect this guy's identity who killed these homeless people? What did the media have to gain by not disclosing everything that they normally would have in another circumstance?
God save the Queen, man.
I'm sorry, I thought this was America.
He's